So it wasn't until I got to LA that I started having this, like, I guess I thought it was like, I guess the equivalent to like an imaginary friend,
Oh,
but it
wow.
doesn't make a lot of sense, you know? Because
Yeah.
when you think about an imaginary friend, it's usually like a kid like you or some kind of magical looking being or something like that. And mine was like this like older Black gentleman. It
So, so
makes any sense.
so I had heard the story, but so that didn't happen at your grandpa's house was in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you never saw anything over there. You just felt it and
No,
everything. Okay.
I could feel it in Mexico, but I'd never seen anything. And, you know, we were living, it's a big culture shock, you know, when I got to LA, we were living in Compton, and it was like
Oh,
culture shock
yeah.
from like, you know, this little village in Michoacan to like, we're in Compton and learning the language and all these things happening. So because I was 4, I was too little to go to school yet. So I spent a lot of time at home by
Mm,
myself with my godmother. And, you know, I entertained myself. So like, I very clearly remember I'd be in the living room and I would set up like all these, you know, stuffed animals or whatever on the couch, and I would put on like shows for them and stuff, just like to entertain myself, you know?
that's
and
funny.
and I always saw this guy like just hanging out in the corner, you know,
Mm,
he's like this older, heavy set, bald black man, older, you know, like I would say in his 60s, maybe 70s,
wow.
and white shirt, like white collar, nice shirt, suspenders, slacks, like shiny black shoes. I remember it very clearly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it was really like, and so, and what's crazy is, you know, because of the culture shock, like I didn't know anything about American culture, much less Black culture in particular, right?
Mm,
So when I remember kind of interacting with him at some point and he told me his name was Percy, I thought that was a real weird name because I was like, I've never heard that name before, you know.
mm.
I mean, I didn't know a lot of American names, but Percy seemed like super weird to me. So I actually like named my stuffed animal that I would sleep with Percy
Oh,
because I
wow.
was like obsessed about this guy. Like I was like, who is this man? Like why is he around? And it wasn't until years later that I remember like reading about Southern names and like Southern Black folk culture that all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, Percy's like a real name. Like
Wow.
that's actually like, you know, like a legit name. So yeah, I thought it was just normal. Like I was like, yeah, this guy's hanging out. He laughs at my jokes. Like he likes being entertained. He's cool, you know? But then eventually I just kind of like, things are a little bit blurry, but I do remember that he just kind of stopped coming around,
Mm,
you know? So then I didn't really think about it for a long time. And I think that that's kind of what, so I was like re-listening to some of my stories over the weekend, kind of, you know, remembering things for this podcast. And I was like, you know what? I guess it comes in waves for me because
mm.
then I can go years where like I don't really see something specific or experience something. And then when it comes back strong. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know like what triggers it or whatever. Sometimes I think meditation, I think
Mm,
I've noticed that with um, the more I quiet my mind, the more I practice meditation on a regular basis, it tends to kind of trigger it to come back.
mm.
Um, so there's been moments where I've been like, you know, when it scares me, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to just pause on meditation for a little while. But one thing I've learned over the years is to not be scared of it, to not let like the fear get in the way, so to speak. But it's taken a while.
Yeah.
Let
So
me say that.
let me ask you, because that's something I've struggled with like a lot. So what about it scares you? Like when you feel it
Yeah.
coming back, what part scares you? Because you know that happens to me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of it is like sometimes scary stuff, right? Like some of my dreams sometimes are a little bit dark or scary, and
Mm.
you know that can be a scary part of it. Or sometimes I have the fear that like I want to do right by the person in the dream. You know what
Ah.
I mean? So then I'm like, how do I figure out who they are, or what does this mean? You know, and so it's like a fear of not figuring out really what that means to do something right with it, you know? So there's also that. But yeah, I mean, some of the darker dreams that I've had have been pretty scary. And I think it's the whole thing also with like the unknown, you
Mm.
know, it's like, is this a good spirit? Is this a negative spirit? If it's a negative spirit, how do I get rid of it? So luckily, I have people in my life that are more into this stuff or believe in this stuff that have been able to kind of guide me and be like, hey, this is something you should do, or here's something you shouldn't do, or here's how to kind of focus yourself and, remove the fear, because one thing that I've been told over and over again is if you focus on the fear is what invites in the negative energy. So then it's like, you have to find a way to just, focus to some positive,
I said, I know where you're going, 'cause baby, I've been there. I said, I know where you're heading, baby, don't be scared. I said, I know where you're going. I said, I know where you're heading. Listen up here. There's a man outside begging for change, trying to find a way when there's no way. I mean, people tell him shoot right, he's in the way. But I tell you about 1-5 ago, it wasn't the same. 'Cause yeah, he had a wife and a nice little job. I mean, a house on the hill, but times are hard. Now I'ma tell you all what happened, so listen to this. I mean, you might not even care, it just be like, hey, life's a bitch. But his wife, she caught the cancer, man, and she fell ill. And by the time that she had passed himself, he had tried to kill. But while drowning in the bottle, he just looked down at me and said, hey, give me that poison, son. 'Cause look, I know where you're going. 'Cause baby, I've been there. I said, I know where you're heading. Baby, don't be scared. I said, I know where you're going. 'Cause baby, I've been there. I said, I know where you're heading. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.